The first transmission came through as a whisper, static, a gasp, then a voice trembling at the edge of defeat. Any aircraft on this net, this is Sabre team. We're pinned. 124 operators trapped. Immediate air support required. Anyone, please. Major Elena Blaze Ramirez froze in the cockpit of her A-10 Thunderbolt II. She had heard 1,000 distress calls before, but something in that voice, raw fear buried under forced calm, hit her like an electric shock. She checked her mission orders. She wasn't cleared for the region. She wasn't even supposed to be airborne anymore. Her shift had ended 30 minutes ago. But the voice came again, weaker this time. They're closing in, we can't hold. Gunfire cut the transmission short. Elena made her decision without hesitation. This is Blaze. Hold on, I'm coming. She shoved her throttles forward, breaking altitude protocols, breaking assigned boundaries, breaking every rule stapled to her career. But rules meant nothing when men were dying. The SEALs were deep inside Ridge Valley, an unforgiving maze of cliffs and broken stone. They had moved in on what was supposed to be a small insurgent camp. Instead, they walked into a coordinated ambush, hundreds of fighters, mortars, heavy machine guns, and the nightmare no one expected, mobile anti-aircraft launchers. The perfect trap. Lieutenant Commander Jack Mercer, leading the 124-man Joint SEAL element, ducked as a rocket slammed into the cliff behind him. Dust and heat blasted his face. "We're boxed in," one of his men shouted. Another voice screamed for a medic. Jack's heart hammered. They had trained for the impossible, but this was different. Their evacuation route was gone. Their ammunition dwindled to scraps. And the enemy was pushing closer with every passing second. Jack slammed his radio. "Any air asset in the region, this is SEAL Element Sabre. We need support now." He expected silence. He didn't expect a woman's voice to slice through the static like a blade. "Sabre team, this is Blaze. I've got eyes on your valley." Jack blinked. "Blaze? Who the hell? A-10 pilot?" "That's right, and I'm off the books. Just keep your heads down." Jack swore under his breath. An A-10 dive in this terrain was suicide. Walls on both sides, no altitude, no escape path. "Pilot, the valley's filled with manpads and AAA systems. You won't even make the first pass. Watch me." Elena dropped into the valley like a falling star. Warning alarms screamed in her cockpit as targeting radars painted her fuselage. Red lights flashed. Her heartbeat accelerated, but her voice stayed cold and steady. "All right boys, let's dance." She pulled her A-10 into a low, impossible banking turn. Ground fire erupted around her, tracer rounds clawing at her wings. Her teeth clenched, but she held her line. She had flown in worse. She had survived worse. She picked the first anti-aircraft launcher. Guns, guns, guns. The GAU-8 Avenger roared, a thunderous growl that split the sky. The cannon's recoil trembled through her bones as a stream of depleted uranium rounds ripped the launcher apart. Below, the SEALs heard the unmistakable sound. "That's an A-10, one of them shouted. Jack allowed himself a small, disbelieving smile. "She's insane," he muttered. "But she's ours." Elena pulled up, barely clearing a ridge. Sweat trickled down her forehead. She knew she needed multiple passes, but each one tightened the enemy's aim. Command finally cracked into her radio. "Blaze, what are you doing? You are off course and unauthorized. Abort immediately." But she ignored them. She didn't have time for politics or reprimands. She had 124 lives counting on her. She dove again. This time the enemy was ready. A missile streaked upward. Elena yanked the stick, flares firing in a bright blossom. The missile veered, exploded just behind her. The shockwave rattled her teeth. Her wing took shrapnel. Her warning panel lit up like a Christmas tree. Still she held her course. "Come on, girl," she whispered to her aircraft. "You've got a lot of fight left." The next pass destroyed 2 more heavy machine gun positions, buying the SEALs precious breathing room. They scrambled to pull their wounded behind cover. Jack Mercer watched the sky in awe. Whoever she is, she's rewriting the rulebook. But Elena knew something terrible. She was down to her last emergency fuel block. She could make one more strafing run, maybe, but then she'd have nothing left to get home. Her radio crackled again. "Blaze, divert immediately." "That's an order." She closed her eyes. She remembered her father's voice, retired Air Force, the man who taught her to fly. Courage doesn't live in orders. It lives in choices. She breathed out slowly. Then she pushed her A-10 into the steepest dive yet. The valley erupted in chaos. Enemy fighters scrambled, firing wildly. Mortars shook the ground. Jack and his SEALs shielded the wounded as dust exploded around them. Then the sky tore open. Elena unleashed the full wrath of the Avenger cannon, one continuous burst that ripped through enemy lines like lightning splitting a forest. Sandbags shredded, weapons flew, armored trucks flipped as if lifted by invisible hands. The ground assault broke instantly. The enemy scattered in terror. In the sudden silence that followed, Jack triggered his radio. "Blaze, Saber team, you just saved every one of us." Elena exhaled shakily. "Glad to hear it, because I'm running on fumes." A distant rumble echoed, friendly helicopters. Command had finally mobilized reinforcements once they realized what was happening. Jack looked at the sky, searching for the A-10. "You coming home, Blaze?" Elena smiled weakly as her engine sputtered. "Yeah, but I might need a tow." She barely made it to friendly airspace before her engines died, gliding in for a rough wheels-up landing. Rescue crews swarmed her jet. When she emerged, helmet tucked under her arm, uniform covered in sweat and dust, she found an entire squadron of SEALs waiting. Jack stepped forward. "You risked your career, your life, for people you didn't even know." He extended his hand. "Thank you." Elena shook it firmly. "You were calling for help. That was enough." They tried to discipline her for breaking mission orders. They failed. News of her actions spread before any report could bury it. The SEALs themselves wrote testimonies, every single one of the 124 operators she saved. Her commanding officer met her days later. "Major Ramirez," he said, gently tapping her wings, "sometimes breaking rules is exactly what the rulebook was written for." She smiled. "Just doing my job, sir." In the end, Elena Ramirez became a legend, not because she followed the rules, but because she broke the ones that needed breaking to save lives. Her story echoed across hangars, barracks, and briefing rooms. Young pilots repeated her name like a promise. Young operators remembered her as the roar in the sky that refused to abandon them. And somewhere deep inside Ridge Valley, beneath the quiet wind drifting across the cliffs, were marks gouged into stone, proof of the day a lone A-10 pilot carved hope out of certain death.